And within India Mumbai region, you have 3 availability zones, and each availability zone has 2 data center. So for example, if my line of business application right now is served from availability zone number 1, data center number 1, and if in case that data center number 1 of availability zone 1 goes down, then I will be served from the data center number 2 of availability zone 1. If availability zone 1 itself goes down, then I will be served from the availability zone 2 data center number 1. Got it? So this is how they manage and maintain the high availability and redundancy.
One question: typically, in one region, how many data centers are there?
In one region, you will have multiple data centers. See, you take it this way. Actually, there are two terms which are logical. Geography is a logical term. Availability zone is also a logical term. That's why, at the time of definition of region, what they say, region is collection of data centers. Okay. But then they have defined geography. What is geography? Geography is a logical term and it is basically collection of region. And why did they created geography? So that they can identify the business share and the count of users. Okay. And then they have this availability zone. Now, availability zone is not a physical thing. It is a concept. But the physical thing is the data center. Now, for example, if I say that India region has around, say, 5 data centers. So those 5 data centers should be in a close proximity to manage and maintain the low latency network. If I say that, I have one data center in, say, Mumbai, Thane, all right, and I may have another data center at CST. Then I may have another data center in Pune, Viman, and I may have another data center within Pune at Hinjewadi. So what they will do, they will say that Thane and the CST data center, they are one availability zone. Pune, Viman data center and Hinjewadi data center will be treated as one availability zone. And similarly, I may have another as, for example, say Nagpur. Okay, so Nagpur may have 2 data centers. So this is how, it is all like looking that I do have a region, India. Okay, and within this India region, I have these 6 data centers, and these 6 data centers are paired as 3 availability zones. And why this concept of availability zone? So that we can serve the customers at the best. Clear? As I have given you an example, if my application is running in Thane data center, if that Thane data center goes down, then I will have the second data center which is at CST. So first he will look forward to serve me from CST. If that availability zone which is comprised of Thane data center and CST data center, if it goes down itself, both of them, like there was a huge rain, and because of that huge rain, internet connectivity got dumped. So there is not yet Thane and CST. Pune data centers, maybe from Mannagar or maybe from Hinjewadi. Is that okay?
And why we have to go for TR when we have this kind of high availability zone in the cloud?
Absolutely true. But why don't you think so that there can be a natural disaster at India itself?
No, no.
Like for example,
Surely, when we are going with the DR, let's see anything like a GCC. Surely the DR also within India only. But by default, when we have the high availability with N+1, by the product itself is going to act, then DR, at least the cloud provider should say that you no need to go with the DR. Everything is by default is a DR, right? So why actually customer also asking we also providing
No,
DR as a separate?
no, no, it's not that way. See what they say, availability. Availability means you will be provided with your computing related resources, but they are not calling it as DR. They're not calling it as DR. See, in DR, what happens? You have to block additional resources. In availability zone, you are not blocking additional resources. See, consider this in this way. Like for example, in Thane data center, I have consumed two servers, each of 4 core processor and 8 GB of RAM. If Thane data center goes down, then the first call will go to the CST data center. Why? Because CST data center is nearby to Thane data center. Now, I am not going to pay for the resources what I am going to consume from CST data center. See, you are not occupying resources in availability zone. This is something, it is served to you additionally from the cloud service provider side. You are not maintaining two copy of the hardware resources. Got it?
Yes, very much. We got that. See, when the cloud itself having such availability in place, why we need to go with the additional commercial of putting a separate dedicated compute to be reserved in the DR? So I feel that seems to be the redundant, right? Completely.
See, that is absolutely true. But
SLA
okay,
uptime requirement.
consider. Can you please
No,
repeat? Yeah, someone said something. Can you please
no, no.
repeat?
I heard SLA uptime requirement. Someone said.
Okay. Okay.
But
See,
obviously, when we are going with the DR, we have to do more thing with the RPO and RTO, such replication, many things. But this high
exactly.
availability is something like milliseconds changeover. We don't
Exactly.
see such
Yes.
things.
You will never come to understand that are you served from the Thane data center or you are served from the CST data center. You will never come to understand. Come on, tell me one thing. Will Azure come to you and say that, oh, I am going for a maintenance at Thane data center? So please, inform the same to all your customers that the services will be down for 2 hours. And if he says that, will you be comfortable to do this? No, you will not be comfortable to do this. And also the other thing is, if resources are running on Thane data center, then if it is goes under maintenance, then you are getting all your resources from the CST data center, and you are not maintaining multiple copy, and you are not paying for two copies. You are paying only for one copy. Got it? It is something what Azure does additionally to maintain the availability. Got it? Whereas in DR, you exclusively say that I want to keep my, secondary copy in Singapore region. Got it?
Got it.
I hope this is clear to you.
Yep.
I think it is valid for very high availability, and with the bigger MNC who anticipates zero business downtime or
Exactly.
uptime.
Zero business downtime. For them, they have.
Example, Amazon. So they are having this kind of a, arrangement across the worldwide in terms of the DR as well as the high availability zone. I hope, I think I've heard somewhere, I think they are also having
Hmm.
a big layout in terms of the how they have spread across from their geographic perspective to ensure zero business impact and the optimum availability.
See, when it comes to availability, you can rely on availability zones, and you're not paying additionally for, doing this replication between two data center or doing the replication between two availability zones. This is something Azure takes care of. But when you want that, my application should not come across business discontinuity. For that, if you are maintaining a DR in other region, then definitely for that you are paying. You are paying for the infrastructure twice, one for your primary and one for your DR. Is that okay? Or still some concerns?
Yeah, good.
All right. So consider Azure region as collection of availability zones as collection of data center. All right. And all these data centers and availability zones are at a close proximity to achieve the low latency network. All right. And then finally, I am going ahead and I do have this very good feature. For this, you know, remind that this FD0 is the rack number 1. FD0 is rack number 1 and FD1 is rack number 2. That FD stands for fault domain. And then you have that UD0 means update domain 0 and you have UD1 which is update domain 1. To get all these things like availability set, consider this example. See, when it comes to maintenance, the maintenance can be, unplanned and it can be planned. All right. So first of all, speaking with respect to unplanned maintenance. Now, in my case, that FD0 is my rack number 1. On that rack number 1, there is some network and power related issues because of which my, you know, that UD0 server is not serving for the line of business application. The moment UD0 server is not serving for line of business application, then who will start serving for the line of business application server? FD1, which is basically my rack number 2. So in FD1, that UD1 server will start serving for my line of business application. This is unplanned maintenance. So fault domain means rack where your server is available. Okay, if that rack goes down, then you will be provided with the resources from the other rack. Got it? Now coming to the planned maintenance. For example, say I am doing operating system kernel upgrade. So I know that I do have two servers and both of them are onto different racks. So what I am saying, I am bringing my UD0 server under maintenance. So now all my line of business application related requests would be served by my UD1 server. Now when my UD0 is under maintenance, I am doing the kernel upgrade, and once I'm done with the kernel upgrade, what I will do, I will finally bring this UD0 server live so that UD0 and UD1 both of them are serving for my line of business application. Now once I am confirmed that UD01 is working properly, now what I can do, I can bring my UD1 server under maintenance and I can start doing kernel upgradation over there. And once I'm done with the kernel upgradation on UD1, I will be putting it back, and finally both of them would be serving for my line of business application. See, fault domain is for unplanned and update domain is for planned. Please remember this. Got it very clear? Any doubt? Is this clear to you?
Good.
All right. So going ahead, and now I do have something called as resource group. See, whenever you go to the cloud service provider and whatever the resources you ask for, got it? Like for example, a computer is made up of processor, RAM, disk, network, operating system image, and couple of other things. So what the Azure cloud does, it will put all these resources what you have consumed on Azure cloud in a resource group. Resource group is basically a logical, container in which all your resources are stored. And finally, why he does this? So that he can perform management activities on a resource group. All right, got the point? Got it very clear? Is that okay to you? What exactly a resource group is? Okay. If you have a clarity on this, then I'll go ahead. And
Bhavesh,
finally,
I'm sorry.
yes,
Bhavesh,
go ahead.
can you repeat it once?
See, what I'm saying, for example, I went to cloud, Azure cloud, and I said I need 2 core processor and 4 GB of RAM, Windows Server 2012, image and a LAN card, and I also need a public IP. So all these things I have requested to the Azure cloud, and finally what Azure cloud will do, it will start provisioning for me. Once it does the provisioning, what it does, it keeps all these things within one container. That one container is called as resource group. And why he puts all these things into one container? So that management becomes easier. Got it?
And who decide this? What would be the server specification? It would be the client, or it would be the Azure, Microsoft Azure.
See, so far, it is only Google Cloud Platform who allows you to choose the hardware, customize hardware. But with respect to AWS and Azure, they do not allow you to choose the hardware. I mean to say, you cannot choose the configuration. They have already made, the configurations. They have small configuration, they have large configuration, they have performance oriented configuration, they have storage oriented configuration, they have gaming platform oriented configuration. So whichever is your computing need, on the basis of that you will choose the template of hardware configuration from that category. All right. In Azure, he does not allow you to choose that I want, 4 GB of RAM. He will say that I do have these templates of hardware. You choose it from your itself. But Google Cloud Platform allows you to do all the customization. So far, got it? And believe me, if they have done it for you, then they have done it for a right cause because they understand your needs better than you. Okay.
One point related to resource group. Resource group, is it a group of similar kind of resources, or we can mix it?
No, 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 no. It's not that way. See, like networking, operating system image, they are different objects, but they are in one resource group. Why? Because all these resources they form your computer. So I can have multiple operating system images and multiple networking, multiple hard drive, multiple processing, and multiple storage in one resource group. Why?
Yeah,
Because all of them.
but the
Okay,
management,
consider this. Yeah, go ahead.
but from management perspective, the management of a hard disk and management of a network will be different, right?
Yeah,
It will
that's
be a
true.
totally different set of activity.
You will be doing all these things on service level then. See, what I'm trying to say, just imagine that your line of business application requires two computers. First computer is Linux and second computer is all right. Now, why first computer Linux? Why? Because application and then on that system you will be installing web server and finally you will be installing your application. But your application requires a database. For that you have a Windows instance within the same resource group. Now on this Windows instance, what did you do? You already had Microsoft SQL license. So you have installed Microsoft SQL over there. So
Yeah,
this
yeah,
way
hold
within one
on.
yeah.
Hold on. That is what I'm saying. if you are writing this thing that resource group is a unit of management of resources. So in my
Mhm.
computer one, I need to manage the network. I need to manage the disk. I need to manage the CPU. Right. So these are the three different, set of components which I need to manage differently, because one of my engineer who will be experienced in managing the disk, may not be experienced in managing the CPU and RAM. So in that case, I'm just wondering that whether I should create a resource group separate for CPU,
No,
RAM,
there is a little
networking.
misconception. There is a little misconception. See, first of all, if you are going to give the access of a virtual machine to someone, then he will have access to almost everything on that virtual machine. Now, what access you are giving? Are you giving the operating system administration related access, or else you are giving the access with respect to managing the
Whatever the
virtual machine
management
hardware?
requires, I will give only that much access. So that's what I'm saying. If I give a network management, the access will be different. If I have to give a hard disk management, the access will be different. So unless until I will put
For
in a
that,
separate.
for that you have roles. For that you have roles. See, what at the moment I'm trying to make you understand that all my resources are in one resource group, and to this resource group I can assign management activities depending on what role I have. Support engineer. Got it? See, that topic what you have brought right now, it is a little further. We were supposed to discuss it. But at the moment, you just remember that all my Azure resources will be in a resource group. Correct? And onto this resource group, I can do assignment of roles. According to the role, the required person will be able to perform the operations. What you were saying. Like I have a network expert, so he will be able to do networking related operations. Absolutely true. I have a storage expert, he will be doing storage related operations. Absolutely true. There's no doubt at all. But my subject is right now, what is a resource group? Resource group is a resource. And what earlier you have arised, it should have similar kind of an resources? No, that is not the logic. It will have different type of resources. Got it? It will have different type of resources, but definitely
Basically, important or need of creation of another, entity within a defined entity. I have a defined entity that I have Azure subscription, and now within that subscription, I am creating another entity called resource group. So, what is the
my
benefit of this?
dear my dear friend, try to understand that you have two line of business application. If you have two line of business application, and if they are not maintained in a resource group, don't you think so that listing them is going to become a challenge for you? How will you come to know which LAN card is for which line of business application virtual machine? That is going to become a challenge for you. That's why they say you keep it within one resource group.
For keeping the network card and network related thing within one resource group, right?
I am saying that my line of business application number one in resource group number one. If my line of business application number one requires two virtual machine, then the resources related to within that resource group number one.
From Tata
And
Communication,
similarly,
from Tata
uh,
Communication perspective, I am telling you that our line of business is for all three category: disk, CPU, RAM, and network. So now let me know that how you are helping me to define the resource group.
See, I am not understanding your other level of question. Your first question was a resource group should have all the same resources. I said no. Now, what is the
No,
second
I'm
question?
saying that I'm saying I'm reading your definition of resource group, and with that
Hmm.
I'm asking that how we can define the resource group, because you are saying that resource group is a unit of management of resources in Azure. So unit of management means each resource group. It is coming out that each resource group should have a similar kind of unit inside it, right? So
No,
disk
no,
management.
no,
Then what is that?
no.
What is the
This is
unit of?
absolutely wrong. You are misconcepting. See, once again, saying resource group is a logic. It's a container. You, oh,
That is
okay.
fine. I understand that. What is
Have
the issue?
you have
What is
you
the
have
unit
you
of
ever
management?
have you ever gone to any manufacturing unit?
That is the and it's an extended question, but I'm just focusing on your
No, no.
written
I
part.
no 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 no.
I
See,
cannot tell
I'm
you
just
that
giving you
whether
an
I have gone
example.
or not gone, or even if I will tell that yes I have gone. That doesn't help me to understand this particular thing. I'm straightforward
See,
saying that
have you
unit of management. Can you explain it? What is unit of management?
See, unit of management means if I want to assign any sort of an operations, all right. If I want to assign any sort of an operation to one of my resource engineer on this resource group, got it? Then according to the assignment of permissions, he will be able to perform the operations on the resources of this resource group.
Fine. So you are saying that you are assigning one engineer for network related activity, right?
Exactly.
So then network related equipments or network related components will come under, say, in that resource group, which I am going to assign for my engineer.
I'll put everything to you on whiteboard. That is really going to help you. Got it? Just a minute, huh? I'll bring the whiteboard. Is the whiteboard visible to you all?
Yes, yes.
All right, looks like it's visible. Just a minute, huh? Okay, so consider this VM1, consider this VM2, and this is my resource group. Okay, now in this resource group, I do have network, I do have storage, and I do have, for example, say applying security. Got it? Same is the case with VM2 also. Now I have user 1, I have user 2, and I have user 3. Got it? Now what I'm saying, I know that my user 1 is expert of network. So what I will do, the permissions what I am going to assign to my user 1 on this resource group, on the basis of that, he will be able to do networking operations for VM1 as well as for VM2. Got it? If I directly start giving the permission on this VM1 network, then I have to give the permission twice. Did you get my point now?
I'm also on the same page. It does mean that user one will be responsible for network resource group kind of
Networking
activity.
operations.
He
Network
will,
operations on the
and
resource group.
will
And
be
in
having
that,
access for he will be having access for network for VM1 and VM2. He will not be
exactly,
having access for storage. That is what is my
exactly.
concern.
See, your first question, what you have put, it was like a resource group will have similar kind of an resources.
Yes. So,
If
yes, so
I
what
heard you correct. So I was just rectifying you there itself that no, it will have different type of objects. And
will,
when it comes to assigning the
you are not giving, you are
your
not
voice
giving
is
access.
cracking.
You are not giving storage access for user one.
Definitely, I have given him the permission to manage and maintain the networking of these two VMs. So he
Yeah.
will
So
be
I'm not.
able to manage and
I'm
maintain.
not. Yeah, I'm not giving management access for storage to user one, right?
Exactly. As
So
per the
if you
permissions,
go
whatever you have assigned.
now if you go in your picture, your
Hmm.
statement is right. What you are saying right now, I am also on the same page. But your picture
Hmm.
is showing a hard disk inside, the network. So that was my question.
If it is showing hard drive inside network, then why it is wrong? Tell me. Come on, don't you think
Because
so?
yeah, hold on. I'm telling you because
Yeah.
user one, it does mean that you are saying me to give an access for storage and network both to user one, keeping
No,
user
no,
one
no,
under
no,
one.
no,
Hold
no,
on.
no.
Keeping user
See,
one
you are
under
going
one resource
ahead.
group.
You are going ahead of the subject. You are going ahead of the subject. Please do not
I, if
wrong.
you if you if you go to your picture, you can understand this thing very clearly. If you go into
Picture
that,
crystal is that it is only defining the resource group. It is not defining anything else. It has not the roles and rest of the other things. See, I know that what you are interpreting, you may find why it is showing me that storage over there, but I'm saying if it is showing the storage over then what is wrong? Actually a resource group will have
is
all the
yeah, I'm
objects
telling you,
contributing for a virtual machine.
I'm telling you what is wrong. I'm telling you what is wrong because each user have their own set of access and set of responsibilities lying it right. Now, if I will give a user one storage access as well, that storage giving storage access in parallel to network access to user one as per your picture in that presentation, that will be creating a violation of the security because
See,
user one is
I
supposed to
am
No, actually, in this picture, is not giving the access to the storage. Inside the resource, there is a multiple subcomponents like a network, storage, resources, etc. And the user one is a network engineer. Inside the resource, he mapping only to the network. That means the user one logs in, he cannot do anything about the storage activity.
yeah. So it does mean that here in this picture, I can understand that there may be multiple resource group can be created from this particular picture. One is network, one is storage, one is security.
Actually, the slight correction here. The resources is for the VM. For VM, there could be a multiple compute like a CPU, memory, disk. Everything falls under the same resource group.
Understand. Yeah, that is fine. That is understandable. So VM under a VM, this particular different resources. My question is under see. I got a question also from why I'm telling you that because I got a question from one of the exam that these are the kind of resources which they are giving an example that you have hard disk, you have RAM, you have CPU, and you have networking. So there is a problem where the user is facing this kind of challenge. So which resource group has to take care of this particular problem? Now, if I will understand that under a VM all the things will come under one resource group, then the answer will be may be wrong. Here the answer will be that under this VM, the network resource group has to take care of this particular issue. So from that angle, I am telling you.
Okay. But by any chance, maybe I can put it you the question in this manner. By any chance, the resource group can be created for individual things. For example, storage, for which the resource
no,
group can be okay. Okay, this is for the VM only. And I will put the
see,
question in this way,
no,
alternate.
no, no. One minute. See, if you are creating a storage, for example, you all are using Google Drive, all right? So definitely we use Google Drive for storing the data. Same kind of an service is offered to you in Azure also, all right? Fine. And for offering such kind of an services, we create storage account. Now this storage account is a terminology, but this storage account creates its own storage group. Sorry, resource group. It creates its own resource group. Okay, and in that resource group, you have storage related objects. But when I say that line of business application, which is composed of two VMs, and when it comes to composing of a VM requires a processor, a VM requires network, a VM requires operating system image. They both, like I will have two VMs, so I will have two processing. I will have two network. I will have two operating system images. So all of these things are into one resource group, and to this resource group, from the perspective of management, either from the perspective of network management, either from the perspective of storage management, I can assign the permissions to the required engineers by giving them the right permissions so that they can do network related activity for these two VMs and storage related activities for these two VMs. Got it?
Okay.
See, because I cannot, compose a VM. I cannot compose a VM without a processor and without a RAM. So definitely, if there is a resource group which has two VMs, so definitely there will be two processing, two network, two operating system image, two storage, where actually the operating system would be laid off. So this will reflect you like around say 10 objects within that resource group. Now, as in you can see 10 objects within that resource group, you will assign the permission to any of your network engineer who is expert into networking. Then he will be able to perform networking operations to both the LAN cards. All right. And then similarly, if you have any support engineer who is good into storage, then he will be able to perform storage related operations of both the VM. Got it? This is how it goes off actually. So in generic storage, resource group is basically a container which will have all your objects, and these objects itself has composed the virtual machine where you are running your line of business application. Got it? And see, whenever the required user is performing the operation, he will be performing the operation within his boundary only. He will not be going that, he will not be able to go beyond that boundary to perform operations. Because when he would be performing operation, he will have only privileges to perform network operations on the LAN card. When he goes and tries to perform operations related to storage, he will straightforward get access denied, not authorized. Correct?
Yeah, good.
If it is clear, then we can, go ahead. Or else, if you still need some, discussion, I can put it at my best. But see, remember that you should not say that a resource group will have only cards. Like a resource group only for LAN card, a resource group only for storage, a resource group only for operating system images. No, that is not the right way. It is a container, and on that container, finally, you are going to assign the management permissions to the people depending on their expertise and what role you have assigned to them. And on the basis of their role, they will be able to do all the operations. All right. And see, I just put that manufacturing unit. Why did I put that manufacturing unit? In manufacturing unit, you have several products. So to put those products, they have that logic of SKU, stock keeping units. Got it? So the same logic over here is also applied by putting them as a resource group. So my first line of business application, for example, comprising of two VMs is in one resource group. then I may have another line of business application to which I have put into another resource group. Why? Because I want to keep the management overhead or the management responsibility also to be, properly delegated to my support engineers. I may have two engineers only responsible and delegated for resource group one resources. I may have another two engineers to whom I have delegated for doing the operations on my resource group 2, which has my business application. Got it? So this is how it is all organized. And see, the objective behind this resource group is the management. And when I say management, it is basically delegation. What are you delegating to the people to perform on this resource group? All right. So going ahead, in case if you have any doubt, I will really put forward to some more example to you. Now coming to the resource manager. Now see what exactly this resource manager logic is. See, I told you, you come to the cloud, and after you come to the cloud, you give instructions, to the cloud. I need 2 GB RAM. I need 4 core of processing, and I need a Windows server image. Now see, when you give all these instructions get consolidated. And when these instructions get consolidated, they get consolidated at a utility or at a tool which basically does the automation, and to this tool they call it as Azure Resource Manager. So it is basically the one who is going to take all the instructions, and after taking all these instructions, finally these instructions are passed on to the virtualization layer, from where actually you get the processor, you get the RAM, you get the hard drive, and you are provided with the operating system image. All right. So what are the main objectives of the resource manager? To receive the instructions, read the instructions, and after reading it, performing the automation. All right. And finally, this resource requirement is supposed to be fulfilled by the virtualization layer. So whatever the resources are required, all right, for your computing related needs, those resources are provisioned to you through the Azure Resource Manager. Also, it will organize your resources, like as I said, resource group. And finally, it will take care of the access control and resource utilization. Got it? See, basically, in the starting, I told you like virtualization goes to cloud. And why it is going towards cloud? Why? Because we wanted to remove the dependency of that virtualization administrator who was supposed to do the provision for us. So all the activities which was done by the virtualization administrator, for that a program has been written now, and that program is Azure Resource Manager. Got the point? See, you may have heard about vCenter server. So vCenter server is the virtualization, management software. From this virtualization management software, you generate the instructions for the virtualization operating system like ESXi. So whatever that operations were executed by the virtualization administrator on virtualization manager for ESXi, now the same thing has been done by the Azure Resource Manager. But this Azure Resource Manager is something who is just taking the instructions from you. Got it? And the same thing in my virtualized environment, the virtual machine manager used to take these instructions from the virtualization administrator. Now you yourself are acting as a virtualization administrator, and finally who is doing the job for you, the automation job? Azure Resource Manager. So Azure Resource Manager is a layer above your virtualization. Okay, you can see it in this way. I'll just put up on to the whiteboard. Okay, so as we know that at the bottom For each and every cloud, you have hardware. On top of that hardware, you have virtualization operating system, and on top of this virtualization operating system, you have this Azure Resource Manager. Got it? And then you have finally, I would say, the Azure portal, which is basically a web-based application. And on this portal, who generates the instructions? The user, the one who is consuming the cloud. So the one who is consuming the cloud, he gives his instructions to the Azure portal, and from the Azure portal, the instruction will go to the ARM, and then finally ARM layer talks to the virtualization operating system for fulfilling the requirement. All right, is that okay? Is this clear to you what
Yep.
exactly Azure Resource Manager is?
Yep.
All right, good to go, going ahead.
Yes, please.
All right, thanks a lot. Okay, so going ahead with the slide. And finally, we would be discussing what exactly now Azure services and products is. See, whatever we have discussed so far, this is all about the architecture. So we have a fair enough idea what exactly a region is, what exactly an availability zone is, what exactly a geography is, and then how, with the help of this architecture, Azure is maintaining the high availability for their customer related to computing needs. All right. So now deep diving into how all this is offered to you. Got it? So definitely there are services and products, and you keep on subscribing these services and availing these products for fulfilling all your computing related needs. Okay. All right. So you have something very, very important, what you call it as Azure Compute Service. Got it? See, whenever we think of virtualization, we have always discussed about computing, the one which is basically running the virtualization operating system. Then we think of the storage. Now, what this storage does, this is the one who is going to store my, software defined computers. See, I told you virtual machine is a software defined computer. Basically, they are files. So there are two main files of a virtual machine. The first file is the configuration file. The configuration file defines how much resources are allocated to this virtual machine. Like, did I allocate a 2 core of processor, 4 GB RAM, what operating system image I have allocated, what card. So all these things are into the configuration file. And then finally you have the disk file. Now this disk file has your operating system image. Got it? Is that okay? So all these virtual machine files, they are stored in the storage. And then finally you have the third very important factor, what you call it as networking. So even in Azure also you have the same logic. You have compute service, the core service. Please remember, compute service is a core service. And then finally on top of compute, adjacent to compute, you have the storage. Why? Because whenever a virtual machine will be created, it will be asking for the storage. So you have Azure storage, and then finally it has Azure networking. Because see, okay, I have a small query to all of you. When you say that I want to create 10 virtual machines on Azure under my subscription, then did you created the switch? Did you pulled the cable from that switch which is connected to one of the virtual machine and similarly to rest of the others. Did you do that? No, we don't do that, because this is what is called as software defined networking. So all that, giving a switch to you, and then from that switch, a cable being connected to your virtual machine, and finally all your 10 virtual machines are into a local area network, which is within your subscription, and they will be able to communicate with each other. So this is all done by that networking. All right. So you have compute, who provides you with the processor and RAM. You have storage, which fulfills your storage related needs, and you have network, which fulfills your networking related needs. Is that okay to you? I will be going on discussing all these things. So as from this slide, you get to understand that what Azure Compute does. It is basically on-demand computing service. It means when there is a request from the cloud consumer, definitely the Azure Compute Service is going to provide you with the disk. It is going to provide you with the processor. It is going to provide you with the memory. It is going to provide you with the networking. It is going to provide you with the operating system. See, in this definition, it says disk is also provided by the compute. But believe me, where actually the storage is coming from, the storage is not actually coming from the hardware of the virtualization operating system. It is coming from an altogether different storage system. See, this is a very important concept. See, just imagine if okay, I'll once again go to the whiteboard and put you this disk and networking. Got it? And there is a proper explanation for this, which is really going to help you to explore how things happen in backend. Okay, so as the whiteboard is visible to you all, this is the hardware, this is that virtualization operating system, and finally you have the ARM. All right, and then on top of this you have that Azure portal. Okay, and over here you have the user, and finally he has put your request. Now, what did I told you? That you have compute service. Okay, and over there it has very clearly put to you what does compute provide you with. It will provide you with the processor, processing power. Okay, it will provide you with the RAM. It also says it provides you with the disk. See, it is the duty of the compute service to provide you with the disk, but actually the disk is not coming from this hardware. Please remember this. I'm making it very clear to you. Then you have network, and then it says operating system. This is operating system image. Now see, generally in real-time environment, we do not give the overhead of storage to the hardware of virtualization operating system as a standard practice, because already he is doing a very heavy duty work of virtualization. So processor and RAM it uses from here only. Disk IO, remember disk IO is not used from here. See, he takes the duty of giving you the disk, but he actually gets the disk from the storage service. Please remember. Now this is something different. This is the compute service, and this is the storage service. So storage service, the virtualization operating system hardware makes a call to your storage area network, and from storage area network he basically holds the VM configuration file over there, as well as the I mean to say the operating system disk file. Got it? So he does the duty of giving you the disk, but actually he gets from the storage system. All right, and similarly you have networking. See, even the LAN card of this hardware is used. LAN card is also used of this hardware. But what I have spoke to you with respect to that, you have a requirement of 10 virtual machines, and all these virtual machines are supposed to be in one, local area network. All right. So for that creation of a switch and then finally connecting the machines to that switch and taking care that they all are receiving the IP address, and then finally they can ping each other. This is all taken care by another service, which is network. Got it? See, compute does the duty of giving you all these things, but storage and network jobs are done by specific services related to network and storage. All right, got the point? Any doubts so far with this? If it is okay to you, we can go ahead. I need some acknowledgement.
Yes, yes, please.
All right, so thanks a lot, and going ahead. Okay, so as it's very clearly mentioned that resources are available on demand and can typically be made available in minutes or even seconds. And definitely, whatever you are going to consume, you are going to pay for that only. All right. And then you have two common service types within the compute. I can say that the compute service has two bifurcation. One is virtual machine and one is container. Got it? So, do you have any idea like what exactly container is?
Resource group.
No, container. No, it's not that container. No, no, not that one. This is something a little different. See, we were using traditional computing. From traditional computing, we come to virtualized computing, and from virtualized computing, we came to cloud computing. But there is very limited difference between virtualized computing and cloud computing, because the base of cloud computing itself is virtualization. So finally, the cloud computing is also delivering us the virtual machine only. Got it? It is delivering us the virtual machine only. But there is something, which I will discuss with you tomorrow. What makes a container far more performance oriented and lightweighted as compared to a virtual machine. All right, I will discuss with you, don't worry. So I'm just going ahead of the compute service. So remember that compute service, this is made available to you on demand, and you use the compute services, and whatever you use, you pay for the same. And at last, compute service is bifurcated into two parts: virtual machine as well as container. So if it is clear to you, I am going ahead, and finally, this is what you have with respect to compute services under the category virtual machine service. Under the category virtual machine services of core service compute, you have these many, services. Like, you can opt for Azure virtual machine, which is purely an infrastructure, which is purely an infrastructure. Please remember this. Also, in virtual machine, they provide you with a feature of scale set. Now, what exactly scale set is? Scale set is also a feature of Azure virtual machine, which allows you to, scale up whenever there is a demand for your line of business application, and that demand is event based. When I say event based, like for example, consider that what I would do, I would define a policy saying that the moment my Azure virtual machine CPU utilization is 60% for consecutive 5 minutes, then what it should do, it should run scale set. Scale set is another policy, and in this policy we have defined how many virtual machines it is supposed to add. All right, and what would be the operating system into it, what would be the hardware, everything. Got the point? So under virtual machine, you have Azure virtual machine, you have VM scale set, and then the second thing is app services. Now see, what is the difference between app services and Azure virtual machine? See, Azure virtual machine is purely infrastructure. Got it? Whereas app services, it is infrastructure plus managed services provided by the cloud. So in this, what will happen? You will have the infrastructure plus operating system will be installed, and if it requires any of the database connectivity, that hardware will also be provided. Operating system will be installed. There you will be installing the database, and finally this database will have connectivity to the main application VM, where you will be provided with all the necessary tools required for web-based application development, or even mobile application development. And finally, what you would be doing, you would just be putting your code onto this app services, and finally the required below infrastructure, that will all be provided to you by the cloud service provider. Got it? See, the same thing, even you can also do it. But definitely for that, what you need the expert. So for example, if I have Azure virtual machine, I can install another Azure virtual machine. I can install operating system on both of them. I can install database on the second virtual machine, and I can take care that it is connected to the first operating system virtual machine. And finally, on that first virtual machine, I will be installing all the environment required for web-based application development. For example, if I am doing PHP, then I will be installing PHP over there. If I do mobile application development, you take all these overheads, you simply just, and who is going to take care of the below infrastructure and the management to the functions. Now, believe me, I really like this function. See, nothing function is exactly. Got it? See, when we say pay as you go, the billing is, for Microsoft, it is based on minutes. Microsoft operating system images, it is based on minutes, and it is based on hours. Okay? Please remember this. Now, there may be a situation wherein you have run the VM, but it is idle. Then in that case, you can simply say, boss, I have run the VM, but I have actually used that Windows VM for 7 minutes practically. But my VM was running for 1.5 hours. So the billing, what you will pay for, that is 1.5 hour and not for 7 minutes. Correct? But in the case of function, this is purely based on event. If there is an event, then only the resources will be called, and finally those resources will be executing the operation what you want it to do. I'll give you a very short but sweet example of this on whiteboard. Okay? So coming to the whiteboard. Okay, so I hope the whiteboard is visible to you all. See what I'm saying. Just imagine that this is one of my storage. and people from my team, they access this storage and they keep on storing their files. U1 user also stores it, U2 user also stores it, U3 user also stores it. Now what I want, that I want to take a note, or I want to take a data which defines what file did U1 user stored, what time did he stored, and what is the file format. Is it a text file, or is it a audio file, or is it a video file? All right. So for this, what I would do, I would call for Azure function. Now, when Azure function will be called, the moment someone comes and stores the data on this storage, the moment the data gets stored on the storage, the Azure function should be called. Why? Because the event of storing the data has occurred. The moment event of storing the data has occurred, Azure function should be called, and on this Azure function I will put up my code, and what this code will do, this code will run, and this code will access the storage, and it will try to check the properties of the file which is stored by the user one. Alright, and after that code is run, it will put up the information to a database, and that database will get an entry. For example, user 1 created the file, the time was, for example, say 7 p.m., and the size of the file is, say, for example, 11 MB, and the file is for example, say MP3 file. All right, got the point? Now this information has all this infrastructure will be released. Now who takes care of this Azure function infrastructure? Azure cloud service provider. Now this is properly pay as you go. I have just consumed it for just to run my code and get the metadata of the file stored in my storage. And where is this metadata stored? This metadata is stored in DB. Got it? And from this DB I can pull all these information anytime. Is that okay to you? Did you understand what is Azure VM? What is VM scale set? And what is app service? And finally, what is what you call it as Azure function? Remember that Azure function is event based. When the event occurs, what is the event? Storing of a file in storage. What will happen? The code will run. Sorry, where this code is going to run? This code is going to run on the virtual machine. But who takes care of this functions virtual machine? Azure cloud service provider. And it is not only you who is going to use this Azure functions virtual machine. This Azure functions virtual machine can be used by all the users who are consuming Azure functions service. And your code will be run on this machine, and what your code does, your code goes to the storage and pulls the metadata and stores everything into the database of the Azure. And from that database of Azure, finally you can collect all that report. Is that okay? So I am closing for the day. If you have any query related to function, please do ask me, so that you have all the basic building blocks defined and intact. All right. So any queries? Hello.
I'm good.
Okay. So I hope you have understood the compute service, and finally that compute service has two bifurcation, VM and container, and under VM you have these four products for you. All right, Azure VM, Azure VM skill sets, Azure app services, and Azure functions. All right, so tomorrow when you come at 3 p.m., we will be exploring couple of other things.
Sure.
All right, so thanks a lot for all your time,
Thank you.
efforts, and patience, and see you tomorrow. And we'll keep exploring this topic.
Bhavish, can you please share that?
Okay, okay. My dear audience, just wait for a minute. Just wait.
Sure.
Just a minute. Huh? Rajendra, you would be taking it ahead or to take it ahead?
No, you can take it. That's okay.
All right, all
Please
right.
go ahead.
Yeah, I share the system screen. All right, I have started to share my system screen and a short but sweet introduction about what exactly innovative technology is in develop your skills on a corporate training company as well as a consulting firm, and we are operational since 2010, and we have been offering consulting and learning solutions to corporates as well as individuals, and with respect to your learning related needs, we we can help you with these trainings. So, especially from a telecoms background, we have analyzed that you know, people from telecom background, they look forward to go undergo all these training skills. So you have post GRE SQL, then you have SD-WAN. Under SD-WAN, you have different products, and then very important, what I was discussing with you, containers. So Kubernetes is the one which can really help you to explore containers. And my dear friends, believe me, now VM is not going to last for a longer time. The charge will be taken by the containers, and they have already started taking the charge. You will not imagine that Google is offering all its services through containers since decades, and recently they have opened up this recipe. And similarly, you have a very good utility called as Elk Stack. So this is more into monitoring and logging, and then all the various cloud platforms like Azure, AWS, OpenStack. Even on the software side, like we deliver training on AngularJS, and you can see the couple of the trainings what the telecom candidates prefer to undergo. So if you have any requirement related to any of these trainings, please do let us know so that we can guide you at the best. And believe me, what is the USP when you get trained by innovative technology solution? See, you are being trained by consultant. So when you are being trained by consultant, we deliver training by putting more and more case studies because we do all these things in our day-to-day life. So when we deliver the training, it's not just only the bookish, but it is something from the perspective of real time. So we put the case studies in front of you, and then we keep on, continuing with our training, and the different topics, how they have contributed to achieve that case study. So this makes your learning very much applicable. All right. So if you have any requirement, you can just consult my colleague Rajinder. She is the only one from whom you have received that email. And these are a couple of upcoming batches what we have aligned for public batch. So as I have been informing you, once you're done with this AZ-900, you should opt for AZ-103, which is purely hands-on. Whatever we are discussing, you will come to learn everything by doing. Okay. Similarly, there is AWS Solutions Architect, Google Cloud Platform, Red Hat, Python, and Python with data science as well as OpenStack. So you're most welcome, and please do look forward to enhance your skills, and do give us an opportunity to assist you with. Now, how do we deliver the training? There is a classroom as well as there is a virtual instructor led. The one which I prefer more is virtual instructor led. The reason behind it, you the recorded sessions which really help you to revise things. And as I said, you will be provided with the best guidance as well as the literature which is really going to help you to put these learnings into your real time profession. All right. And then couple of more things, like what you will get. So definitely there is a pre-test and post-test, and then you get a soft copy of courseware, as well as if you need hard copy, that is also provided. And this is, as I said, this course content, not course content, this courseware is prepared based on the case study. So that is really very helpful. Plus, definitely you can go ahead with the feedback, and we keep on analyzing our feedback so that we can offer more and more effective training services. Plus, you can also trust us for your certificate related requirement, because we are an authorized testing partner to Pearson also. And believe me, our prepared demo questionnaire will help you to basically crack the examination also. And as I said, online learning, you have a revision methodology by listening to the recordings. Plus, we are also in process of delivering the labs 24/7. So far we have achieved for a couple of courses, and our request, please do share any of your business requirement, and keep on going through our training calendars, and definitely we will be happy to assist you for your learning related needs. And plus, you can put us the proposal, you can request us for the proposal which will have all the details, like commercial as well as miscellaneous. And apart from that, if you have anything else, you please ask, and I'm there to assist you, including there. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead, and please do share your learning related requirement. Our online learning, all right. And important thing, if you feel revision, you will get revision classes at free of cost. We don't charge people in classes, provided you do the revision within the 90 days after completion of your training. All right. So I hope this was fair enough, informative to you, and looking forward to your cooperation, efforts, and time. All right. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much, and see you. Stop at 3. All right. Any
Thank
queries?
you so much.
Thanks, Bhavesh. Appreciate
It's
it.
wonderful session.
You will be shared with the recording also. So it has been recorded, and soon it will be shared with you. All right. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bhavesh. So Bhavesh, I'm with a query here.
Sorry, Bhavesh has left the group.
Oh, is this Rajinder?
Yeah.
Oh, Rajinder. So I've received notification for a morning session, but I joined lately because of a meeting. So I've joined this afternoon session. So
Okay.
that won't be an issue, right?
Yeah, that's not an issue. That's okay.
Okay, okay, Rajinder. Thanks for this.
Thanks.
Here the examples were very live and relatable. So this is a pretty wonderful session. Thanks for this.
Thank you so much. Please do fill all these things in the feedback form also.
Yeah, I'll do that, Rajinder. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye bye.